Okay, cool.
It works.
Okay, so she gave us like a list of questions that we're supposed to go over just from the Truth About Marriage, or from Truth Overruled, that little chapter in that book. So it first brings up the question, there's like a lot of questions. I guess, how long are the meetings supposed to be? An hour, right?
It said, I think,
6.
8 to 9 minutes per person attending. So how many people do we have?
We have 6.
So it's at least 48 minutes.
Okay.
48 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question. Sorry.
Yeah.
Is there any way I can participate via phone? So this is the one day I forgot about it. I have to take him to Scout, which is 15 minutes away.
Sure.
Because they're going on a hiking. But I'm thinking, since I already showed my face, is there a way I can like continue while I'm driving?
You can put it, I know you can download Zoom as an app on your phone.
Okay.
And it's essentially the same thing, basically, but
Okay.
Yeah, you could put it on Zoom on your phone, and then you could just listen and put your phone down and talk.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do that. This is the one time he has to do this thing. They're going to go hiking and...
Okay, cool. No problem.
Is it okay, Aurelia, if we go ahead and get started?
Yeah, can you please? And then I will figure this out and join.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, get your shoes on, okay? I already have them. Okay. You need water bottle. Can you grab it?
So, first question was, what doctrine did Elder Christofferson share that explain why marriage is between a man and a woman?
Okay. I like what he said. He said, love comes from you. Elder Christofferson, right?
Right.
He said, love comes from you, but marriage from God. Marriage is God's creation, not man's.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool when they were explaining all the government stuff, how it's all supposed to, they're trying to make it all, whatever the word is. My daughter's looking at me.
Yeah, no, it was a good talk. I remember hearing it the first time, and I don't know, like, I think it was more profound to me too that he gave it because he has a brother that is married to a man. And I just thought that was amazing that he was the one that was giving that talk, and he must feel, I don't know, the topic is obviously very personal to him because of his brother. And so I just thought that was really neat. But I know that he talked a little bit about Adam and Eve, like in the beginning, like that's what God intended it to be, just like you said.
Yeah, he said God gave that to Adam and Eve, and he married them. It's not just what's the word? I have to write it down.
Yeah.
Guys, I just wanted to say real quick, I have a crying baby in the other room. So if I kind of like...
That's totally fine.
You're on my phone, so I can kind of take you with me, but if I need to, like, if I don't answer...
Family is most important.
yeah, just know that my child's screaming, so...
Sorry, yeah, get your baby.
So I'm actually going to go check on him real quick. I will jump back in just a second.
Cute.
So we listened to we read and looked at a lot of different articles for this one, and Sister Beck's, Julie Beck's talk was kind of right there along with Elder Christofferson's. And I liked how she said that the whole purpose of God's plan hinges on families. She said the creation, this earth was created for families to come and inhabit.
Yeah.
And the fall, like she went through each part of the plan of salvation and showed how that's completely connected to God's plan for families, and how the plan of salvation is a plan for families. And then also from the book, Truth Overruled, I like how it said marriage is based on the anthropological truth that men and women are complementary, the biological fact that reproduction depends on a man and a woman, and the social reality that children deserve a mother and a father. So I felt like all the resources, all the things that we read and watched kind of all supported this in more than, in more than one way.
Right.
Definitely.
It was definitely like a great talk to start out with because I felt like it gave us the foundation for just the topic of marriage and family and for this whole entire class. Like it was a good first talk.
Yeah, I did too. I think I put my notes on my journal thing and I was trying to find it.
I'm trying to find my
Does
notes
anyone
too.
else have anything they want to add on this question? We have a lot of like questions, so.
I have one short thing. I really liked how it talked about like one of the reasons we have families, or like the reason I guess is because that's the best way for God's plan to thrive. I didn't really like think of that before, but like it's so true. And that was one of the main things I got from that. And also how like every one of us has a part in this plan, and like that we all have gifts that will help us and those around us. And I just liked that we feel so small sometimes, but we all have like this little part in like his divine plan, and it's up to us to kind of help those around us see the same thing,
Yeah, thank you. We're all super significant and unique. And I think that's why his plan or family is so important to his plan. It's great to bring to the table. And we need both for like the family to thrive, as you said. So the other question was, why do you think it is important that we study this talk at the beginning of the semester as opposed to the end?
Like one comment I had about this was kind of like what you guys were saying before, is it really just kind of lays the foundation, like because you can't go on and talk about how you can defend the family and if you don't understand what the family is and like why it's actually important to even have a family, because like just kind of with anything, you can't really defend or fight for anything if you don't even know how to like define it or why, like, or you don't know why it's like important to be an advocate for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah, here's my notes I found where he said it's not I don't know if this was from Christofferson's talk, but it said it is not a human invention, it is from God. Because I think that the government tries to make it seem like everything's technical, but it's not, it's from God.
I also thought that, going along with that, I also thought that the book from the Truth Overruled book, understanding the true nature of families and that it has been ordained by God, it got overturned in the Supreme Court because there was the view of the comprehensive view of marriage versus the consensual view. And so if you don't have a clear understanding of what marriage is, then how can you take a stand for it?
Because it's just what someone says. It can be two men, it could be why couldn't it be three men and a woman?
Exactly.
It's like interesting when you really break it down, just like the abortion thing.
Yeah, and recently I saw an article in the newspaper that a woman had married her own son.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why isn't that okay if it's just a matter of consent? They were obviously both okay with that.
And pretty soon there's going to be so many laws, they're not going to be able to keep up with it all.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
Anybody else have any thoughts on this question? Okay. So I do, Cayenne, has anyone else had a hard time hearing Cayenne? I had a hard time hearing your comment, Cayenne. I just didn't know if Sister Call would be able to hear you. So that's why I'm asking if anybody else can hear her okay. Maybe it's just my computer.
Soft, but I can hear.
Okay, well, let me, I'm gonna try pulling it up on my computer. It wasn't working before, so I might disappear while I transition over.
I can hear you, it's just soft.
I'm on my phone right now, so that's probably why.
I can hear you just fine.
Trying to keep her baby quiet.
Yeah. So the third question is, how well do you think that the average Latter-day Saint understands the doctrine of the why of the family? I thought this was like a super interesting question because a lot of times you always hear like the saying knowledge is power, and that can be like a really good thing or a really bad thing. It just depends on what you choose to do with the knowledge. But I think that sometimes as Latter-day Saints, which I don't know if this would be like touchy for anybody, but I think you have the Spirit and you need the Spirit, but God also gave us a brain and we need to use our brains as well. And so those are two things that He gave us. And I think, I don't know, that's why I think sometimes Latter-day Saints were just like, well, I'm going off the faith, like it's going to be good, you know, and I think that's good to a certain extent. But I also think that we need to use our brain. The Lord is there to guide and direct us, and the Spirit will be there to guide and direct us. But if we're not going to use our faith to take steps forward, even if that means we're in the dark a little bit because we don't know where to go, then that's, I don't know, it's kind of the pointless of having a brain and obtaining knowledge if we're not going to use it. And so I think that that's just kind of what I thought of whenever I saw that question. So it just reminded me of how when we are trying to figure out the why of things, we can seek the Lord's help through prayer and fasting, but also try and do our research as well.
That's good. That's true.
Real quick, can you guys hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that better than before?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry, I just had to switch over. Okay, you guys are going over the third question, right? About the average Latter-day Saint, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think like when it comes to, I mean, kind of like within anything within the church, I kind of feel like people have like your basic answers, like, you know, your basic knowledge, but I feel like a lot of times, especially regarding the family, they just kind of, they don't really like go into like deeper doctrine to try and find like greater knowledge about why something happens the way it does. And I think it kind of comes like when like a new doctrine, well, not a new doctrine, but like when a new principle or something is shared, a lot of people just kind of like, okay, well, the prophet said it, so it needs to, like, that's just how it is. And I don't think people really try to build their own testimony of it. And so I think like, especially for us, you know, we all have that opportunity to, we've studied the family, we've learned about it a lot, and then if there's something that we don't really understand, we can go try to find like a personal testimony of it ourselves. And I think when it comes to the average Latter-day Saint, I think they know things, but they don't really try to expand and, you know, have more information given to them, try to find more details about it. And so, you know, there's just like those basic easy answers that come to it. So I think if every family learned more about why the family is so important and why it's supposed to be between a man and a woman and having children and everything, I think that it wouldn't be as easy, especially, I think it'd be easier to teach people and kind of stand up for things going on in the world about everything that's changing. I think it'd be a lot easier for members to do that.
Sounds good.
Were you going to talk, Christy?
Yeah.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, I really like what you said. And I remember just my experience going through Young Women's when they talk about the family, and I'd have like questions, and they'd just be like, well, like, that's just the way it is. and like not really explaining why, not like why it's the doctrine, but just like explain the doctrine to me. I feel like nowadays with how the world views the family and views so many other things, I feel like it's important to teach the doctrine a lot, so that like instead of just, well, you should believe this because you should, like that's part of it, but like I think by teaching the growing up youth who's growing up in this world where it's attacked so much more, to help them get a good basis of the doctrine so that they can be firm in like their own belief in this whole subject. And it's just my little feel on that. If that makes sense.
I think we're just always taught to have a testimony, and like if you don't know the answer, you just testify of the truth, and then I think that's where it always stops. Not always, but a lot of times it just gets that far. So this class is really interesting that it takes it further so that we can be an advocate for family.
I was just going to comment that based on Sister Beck's talk, she seemed to say, I don't think the youth understand why we have families. And like this book, the Truth Overruled book said, in our grandparents' generation, no one would have ever had to explain why marriage is between a man and woman. And he's like, we have this task that's like trying to describe why a wheel has to be round, when it's just like, there's so many things that we think are just very basic assumptions that our kids know. And sometimes I start to worry like, oh my gosh, have I taught my kids that having children of their own is a really, really important thing? Like it's important to populate the earth. And, you know, I mean, just the very basic things that you don't even think about as being necessarily, I don't know, the gospel, but it is. It's totally part of God's plan. And so I think that a lot of times we assume that our kids know things that they really don't. So it's good to study more in depth, like you've all said, and get a better understanding of it so we can teach our kids and be advocates.
Kind of with that though, it's like kind of what you were saying about 50 years ago, people like that it was just kind of a given. I think what's happened is nobody tried to change anything. Nobody questioned why it really was a certain way. So nobody even had to explain it. And so then when we get to like further generations down, it's not necessarily that maybe you think that they just know it, but it's now you actually have people trying to question it and trying to actually learn. Like in the instance with the definition of marriage being changed, like, but for a long time, like I was kind of with it too, where it was like, well, marriage is between a man and woman, like that's what it is. But there's actually like a whole lot more to it. And I don't think people really questioned it. So nobody talked about it, which made it to where it kind of just went over the years. And now all of a sudden you have people that are, well, why can't it be like this? And it's because it was never explained to them to begin with.
Yeah. And now we are having to do that. So
yeah,
it's like pornography. Nobody really talked about it. And now that it's becoming an issue, now we have to start teaching our kids from the time they're 2 years old practically or whatever, because it's an issue, because Satan is so much stronger now. And he is, he's the reason we're having to do all this. Right?
True. Super
Give him
true.
the credit.
Yeah. Okay, are we good on this question? Ready for the next one? Okay. So using doctrine, how would you articulate to a fellow Latter-day Saint, I am in favor of marriage between a man and a woman because ...
I can go. I feel like I'm talking a lot.
I know, I feel like I'm talking a lot too.
Just tell me to shut up if you get tired of hearing from me. But I put, it's the pattern the Lord established. He himself established the pattern in the Garden of Eden. It's the best setting for God's plan to thrive. It's the best setting for the birth and rearing of children and for the teaching the gospel to children. And because the prophets have said that these commandments for man and woman to marry and multiply and replenish the earth are still in force. Those are doctrinal reasons.
And I think on that question, for me personally, I would just say, because I feel this is true. If I was really questioned on this question, I probably wouldn't go into so much, but it could go either way. because a lot of people are just going to disagree. What do you guys think? I don't know.
I really liked this question because I feel like I received it a lot when I was on my mission. And in addition to that, I live in the Bible Belt. And so everybody has their opinions about Adam and Eve and the fall and all of that, basically. And so I just kind of thought about it because I feel like people, at least that I've talked to here in the South, can be very respectful about it, but they also can kind of be competitive, like you said, Judy. Like they want to argue a little bit, some of them, but I love being able to tell them like a more positive perspective of Adam and Eve, because theirs is so like negative and depressing to me. Like they think Eve was just this evil person who disobeyed God, and now we're having to suffer for it. And that's just so depressing and sad and negative, because I think she was wise in her decision and it was part of the Lord's plan. And she knew that Adam, that they needed to be able to have knowledge so that they could have children. I mean, how would they have done it otherwise? I mean, they were innocent, and they didn't have that knowledge. And so they wouldn't have been able to fulfill one commandment without breaking one, which is kind of confusing, but I don't know. So that's why I always love sharing with them, like a more positive side. And sometimes, again, they're like, okay, cool, like I respect your belief or whatever. And other times they're like, no, it's definitely not that way.
That's cool. It says our free meeting will end in 10 minutes unless I pay $14.99.
Okay, well, are there any questions we really want to hit on? Because there's like 17.
Did that come up on your screen too?
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
Yep. So I guess it's really, I don't know.
We should have that at church. It's time to end.
We should here.
Well, and yeah, it says you don't have to go over all these questions. It just says some of them. And it says that somebody has to sum it up in the last 2 or 3 minutes. The data manager.
Who's the data manager?
It says your role is to summarize the discussion in the last 2 to 3 minutes of the session.
Oh.
Do we have a data manager?
Somebody can volunteer.
Anybody want to volunteer to be the data manager?
It's probably not a big deal. You just kind of say whatever. But.
Yeah, I could do it.
Cool. Just stop us when you're ready to sum everything up.
Okay.
Let's go over the question. I don't know if anyone has a preference.
Could we do that one about, does your Father in heaven discriminate by not acknowledging those who are in the family?
So does our Father in heaven discriminate by not acknowledging those who are in a family that does not fit perfectly with this document? Why or why not? How does the new, well, I guess we'll just focus on that first part.
So I kind of just want to talk, I just like this one, kind of for 2 reasons. I have something to say about it, but also because I feel like this kind of falls in with family members and friends who may be, may have same-sex attraction. And it's kind of like, I have cousins that deal with this, and it's like they feel like, oh, well, I can't go to church because I'm this way. And I feel like they kind of have that. So it's like, kind of how can you still be welcoming of that and, teach them that God still loves them? But I just wanted to say, I don't think he does discriminate, because he's put out what marriage is. Here's the definition. It's between a man and a wife. It's to help bring children into the world. It's because this is how I wanted it to. And if you are, at least in the case of same-sex attraction, if you would rather be in an alternative relationship, you're choosing to live that way. You're not wanting to be a part of marriage. And so I kind of like that, because he's not discriminating. He's just allowing you to exercise your agency and make the choice that you want to make. But then also, just in any other kind of family situation of single parents or whatever. In the proclamation, it specifically says in there that I can't remember exactly what it says, but it says like a individual adaptation may be needed and family members should lend support when needed. And so I think it kind of just goes with this, that if you don't fit that perfect family picture that's outlined in the family proclamation, there's nothing wrong with you. It just means that you just have different circumstances, and I think it all boils down to, as long as you're just trying your absolute best to achieve that family and do your best to live those principles, then that's all you really need to be doing. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
That's good. I like that.
No, I love that. You were the one that pointed that part out to me in the family proclamation, because I had so many like women on my mission, like in the wards, that would, I don't know, just express concerns, or they'd get offended when there was a lesson taught about marriage and family. Like, I don't know, it was a struggle as missionaries trying to explain it to them. But that was a really good point that I wish I knew or had seen on my mission and just had it. I need to memorize the family proclamation so I can just whip it out. Here you go. I guess real quick before we close, should we talk about what time we want to meet for future meetings?
Yeah. I'm good for any time.
Okay.
The earlier one, we could do that.
Yeah. A little earlier than 3 would definitely be nice for me. Like, I could do 12, 1, 2. Yeah. I could even do earlier than that. But yeah, 3 for Alabama is a little bit later. It's like
Okay.
4 here. And so
We
we're
could
all
do 1. Do you guys want to do 1?
Yeah, be great.
1 o'clock?
And it's mountain time, right?
I don't
Right.
know. It's Idaho time. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Idaho time. Okay, so that would be
1 o'clock mountain time.
okay, so
Except for the other one that's not here, Aurelia. Make sure that it's okay with her.
Yeah, we could probably just text on the group text.
Okay.
And make sure.
1 o'clock. Okay, perfect. And then I will post this link. So who wants to sum it up?
I'll sum it up.
Okay.
Okay, so we talked about doctrines of the gospel that establish why marriage is between a man and a woman, and that marriage is the Lord's creation. God created this. It's not something that man created. So God is really the one that calls the shots on it. We talked about it's good to study these things at the beginning of the semester so that we have a better understanding of what God's position on family is, how to define family so that we can better defend it and be advocates for the family. And it's also, we talked about the understanding of the average Latter-day Saint on the doctrines of the why of family. And we talked about how this is important to recognize that it used to be information that was considered common knowledge, but our world has changed so much that we really have to make sure that our children and the coming generations understand what marriage is. We talked about how to use doctrine to defend marriage being between a man and a woman. And let's see, and then we also talked about how Heavenly Father, Kyan said it really well, how Heavenly Father has laid out his commandments, the way things are, his plan, and it's our choice whether to follow that or not, but he never forbids anyone from following him. He wants all of us to come to him, and he doesn't forbid anyone. So no, he doesn't discriminate, but their own choices may move him. How did she say it? She said, if you're choosing a different route than his plan, he allows you to exercise your agency. And as long as you're trying to fit that pattern that he has established, then keep trying and keep pushing for it. And then we just talked about our meeting time going forward being at 1 o'clock Mountain Standard Time on Wednesdays. Is that good?
Perfect. You know what I thought too is I heard it, but I don't know where. But it was a talk or something that said that whoever suffers on this earth or whatever you don't, even if you have a horrible life the entire life, you will be compensated for it in the next life. What was that from?
I read it too. I don't remember which one it was.
So amazing. So it was like such a comfort, like no matter what the hardships, if you have, I always think of the Holocaust. Was that the thing? The Holocaust victims? And it's just like such a reassuring thing it's like you aren't here to suffer more than others, but some of you will, and you will be compensated. You will be made happy and made well. I am going to find where I read that, but it was so good. So anyway, about discrimination, he doesn't discriminate, but he lets us suffer. So, or however you want to say it. So. All right, that was really short. We started on time, so I don't know why that thing said that because we're supposed to go longer, but
we're supposed to go just like 4 more minutes. So
okay,
maybe let's keep talking and see if it shuts us down.
Hopefully I can post this. If I can't, then hunt me down. I'm going to really try. I'll find out how to post this.
I'll go on that questions and conversations board and I'll just ask her if there's like maybe a way around having that time limit on here.
Okay. Yeah, I've never seen that. I've done Zoom a lot. That's weird.
So
I feel like a minute's been over though.
Yeah, I do too. We haven't been charged, so.
Oh my God.
And actually, you know, it was set up through BYUI, so I would think that we have almost like a subscription, or I don't know.
Because my math teacher would do Zoom and it would go like 2 hours.
Yeah. Well, we have like 3 minutes left then, if we want to.
Like 3 minutes less